Okay, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Thank God it's Friday. Well, the big news yesterday night, surprising if you ask me, is that President Tinubu has named Professor Joash Amupitan. And don't let the name fool you. Amupitan, in this case, is from North Central. But we'll talk about that. He's a professor of law. And people might have been thinking that maybe those who are in charge of announcing a replacement, going by what the retiring professor had just said, he just was trying to give everybody a bit more room. The very next day, we hear from the president that actually this is the guy. This is our man, Professor Joash Amupitan. Well, my guest this morning is Dr. Jerry Chukwueke.
Chief Jerry Chukwueke, I'm not a doctor, so keep going.
But my caller Wale has said that you are a doctor.
Don't like to make me a professor. I'm not. I'm just a private sector man, just moving along.
Okay, so let me amend that to Chief Jerry Chukwueke.
That's fine.
Okay, so thank you very much for coming. You're a political affairs analyst, and you've also worked closely with the Imo State government over time, right?
Yes, as a chief technical advisor.
Indeed. So we'll talk about that, and also since you're here, the president was in town. When I say in town, he was in the southeast, a little while ago. We might talk about that if we have the time. But
that's fine.
Our primary concern this morning is the announcement. Well, I called it a surprise announcement. There are those after the event who are saying that, this name was being mentioned in about a week or so to the time. I don't know how far that is true, but did it surprise you when the name was announced?
Well, it was a pleasant surprise.
Okay, yeah.
Because when you now do a deep dive into what must have been playing in Mr. President's mind, keep in mind who we're dealing with, Mr. President. He thinks transformation. He thinks new ideas. He thinks fresh blood. And he also thinks how to improve the situation.
Okay.
That's the transformational agenda thing we'll keep talking about. Mm-hmm. And so, with all due respect to the INEC structure before this nomination, the perception generally is that INEC needed transformation. I think that's fair to say.
Okay.
And that was the focus of Mr. President. That is my view. Mm-hmm. For example, Professor Joe, as many of his students at the University of Jos call him, because he's a friend of young people.
Okay. He himself is not that much of an elder.
He's at the peak of his career.
Yes, and he's at the peak of his career.
Yes. So here we go. The man was a product of parenting of school teachers. A school teacher raised him, and a strict Christian family. I say this because anyone who is raised by a school teacher,
of course,
like me, we know what that means. No nonsense upbringing.
Nigerians have a concept of what that means.
Absolutely. We're talking just foundational issues here, because it speaks to character. Who raised you? What kind of family? So you can see from the get-go that we have something positive to look at. It wasn't an anyhow raised person. Now that explains, in my view, to having gone to the University of Jos, studied law, did his master's, PhD, top there, dean of the law program, the deputy vice chancellor, and so on, an administrator like he was. Jos, as you know, is a calm city. It's not a city for greedy people. It's not a city where overly ambitious people live. They're self-content. I grew up in Plateau State.
Okay.
So I have the feel, the old Benue Plateau. So People are calm. They are not over exuberant in terms of wants. They focus more on need. Why am I telling this story? It goes to speak about integrity. That's the point I'm making. It goes to speak as to the making of the man. To me, that's one of the most important things that have happened. But you can also say, how come we're talking about an INEC chairman whose environment and experience is largely the University of Jos?
Academia.
I'm coming to the academia because he's a strong administrator. That's a fair argument, except to say that he was also a Fulbright scholar at the University of Iowa in the United States. So the man has international exposure. So when you now come to the issue of his credentials, Professor Joe is an expert in the law of evidence, and I'll come to the import of that in a minute. He's a specialist in corporate governance and due process. I want you to imagine the task ahead for him. Those two key things. Number one, an authority in law of evidence, which means that he is very well equipped to ensure that INEC's legal positions that are put before the court of law are not only vetted properly, but can stand legal scrutiny. Unlike many a time, what we saw in the
I was going to say there have been unfortunate instances where INEC has had its case thrown out.
That is the point I'm making. Number two, when you are an expert in corporate governance and due process, you are equipped to appreciate the fact that you as a leader is leading a team who must also be listened to and have play in decision making. It's like running a corporate organization. Remember, he's chairman of INEC, that is a commission. 2 commissioners per geopolitical zone. So there are 12 commissioners who will have a say, and their say must be listened to and taken into due consideration, as opposed to a commission capture, where one person becomes the authority, as we've seen before. So he appreciates the importance. And I'm not even, you have to also add the resident commissioners in the respective states. That is running a commission where all key members and their views will come to the table, and there'll be robust debate, and their decisions will follow due process. That training is just as important, in my view, as that of being an authority in the law of evidence. So we're dealing with 2 key issues transformationally. One, the fact that what comes out of INEC, because we're going into elections, Anambra one is coming up shortly. There are other states coming up before the general election, one more state before the general election. And what that means is that all the matters of litigation that will follow, because Nigerians are experts in going to court and litigation.
It is how we are.
But an INEC chairman understands that what comes out of the commission must stand legal scrutiny. Very important for us. And the fact that he's better equipped to carry his colleagues along, because it's no longer the issue of commission capture. The man we are talking about would allow other views to play. You know, and I rest at this for the moment. I was reading a comment about him being a lawyer, a very good friend and lawyer of Senator Dino Malaye. See, you get the point? If Mr. President was concerned about the opposition, quote unquote, that would have been an issue, wouldn't it?
It might have been an issue. You're very, very right.
I would think so. But here's a man who, as we dig deeper Many of his friends and associates and people who know him talk about how principled he is, that he's taken many of their cases on to appeals because he believed in them pro bono. Pro bono. He didn't charge him.
Is that right?
So
I didn't know that.
So you're talking
that's the
about
kind of man that
what
we're talking
about. And then guess what else? The courage to withstand political pressure. That is an important part of this conversation we're having today. The man we see, and we now have to start really pray for him, from his training and what we've seen in his relationships, will be open to all and will focus on the common good and what comes out of the INEC. I think Mr. President made a great transformational choice, like he's done many a time.
Indeed, and it does show that President Tinubu is a man who seems to be very prepared.
Yes.
Because it's clear that he must have been thinking about the situation. He would have known the calendars. He would have known the Professor Mahmoud, his time was, his term was about to be completed.
Right.
And that, so what are we going to do after that? But he kept quiet. He didn't speak to the kind of people that can also bring it later on onto social media.
Correct.
There might have been maybe a handful of people that would have known the president's thinking, but not a whiff of it. It then points to the fact that, and then all these things you're talking about now about the man, no doubt President Tinubu would have weighed it. But let me ask you this. They put the oldest serving INEC commissioner, the outgoing chairman, put her simply because she's the most senior.
Yeah, that's due process.
That's due process.
Yes, that's how it works.
And majority, in fact, unanimously,
yes,
the commissioners agreed.
Exactly.
That this is in order.
Exactly.
I noticed that word unanimously can also be brought to bear on the Federal Executive Council meeting when President surprisingly presented his nomination, again, unanimously, accepted.
Correct.
But you remember that we were told that not very many of us actually attend those Federal Executive Council meetings. We were told that, no, in fact, this was supposed to be Council of State.
Council of State.
So where were the former heads of government in this country?
So somewhere in there, former President Jonathan, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, and also former President Yakubu Gowon. I cannot speak to why they weren't there. But I think we can assume that sometimes there's a perception that you don't want to be part of an endorsement of someone you're not sure of,
okay,
and what his loyalty factor would be. And that's a political play. I think where we are now, and the more facts emerge, is that they too will take a deep breath. If the reason for their absence was not some unforeseen circumstance, to now take a look at the man and say, okay, we weren't there, but this was a good call. I believe that will happen.
Okay, let's wait. Good morning, Mr. George. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you. Good morning.
And good morning to the guest.
Thank you very much.
Uncle Yori, I think the president got it right by appointing an INEC chairman without waiting much time. Well, no matter who the president appoints, there will be some who do not see, who will never think he can be credible. The man should just get ready to withstand blackmail and go ahead with what he is convinced is the right thing without listening to people who just want to run him down. I will also suggest to him to take a deep look at the staff of INEC itself. There is need to clean up that area. There's some of them that used to sabotage the the system during elections. Mm-hmm. And then you should bring in some new hands to the technical department, to the IT department. And I also think he should improve the digital system that his predecessor started. We should be able to do electronic voting in our country. We should be able to allow Nigerians outside the country to vote in a clean system that is not prone to fraud. And we should be able to employ technology as much as possible to ensure that what happened in 2023 doesn't truncate it. A lot of people wanted to, to rig the election, online, and because the INEC chairman stood against it, that's why you see them saying, hey, he's not credible, he's this, he's that. They wanted to use their online technology to rig it, and the man stood his ground and said so. So he should also not become a popular chairman. We don't want a popular chairman there. We want a chairman that does the right thing and goes against evildoers, so that our electoral system can be good in our country. And I wish him well.
Indeed. Thank you very much for calling in.
Yeah, very interesting perspective that he put on the table. First, the transformational agenda, I believe, was a focus point for Mr. President in this nomination, and I'm confident to be confirmed by the Senate, mm-hmm. addresses some of the issues he just raised. How do you take a look going forward as to the changes, the reforms that are necessary at INEC? Personnel, structure of governance, due process, technology improvement. How do you ensure that the sort of technology improvement required going forward is not compromised? You see, this was a big issue for 2023. That is important. Also, the issue of administration, particularly with regards to the logistical challenge INEC has to manage. Moving ballot boxes and election materials to all of these polling units on time, ensuring that this technology is a real-time reporting system that is credible. The training of all the INEC ad hoc staff on a timely basis to ensure that there are not last-minute decisions where they didn't have the proper training and orientation to carry out their work. So there's a lot of transformational issues here. And that is why I think that each time you bring somebody in with fresh ideas, forward-looking. So when the obedience say that for him, I know what our young people are thinking about. They're futuristic. They say, who is forward-looking? Who can improve the system?
That's an interesting point you brought up, that even we have heard from within the obedient movement that, this is kosher.
Yes.
This is carry on.
Correct.
Good morning, Reverend Dominic. Thank you for holding on. Go ahead now, please.
Good morning, Chief Jody. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
How is your guest? Your guest is from my area too.
Okay. All right then. Okay. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Can I go on?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I love what Mr. President did. He didn't give time and chance to speculators and lobbyists, and he gave us this man we have seen. I won't comment much about his character because they say the taste of the Putin is in the eating. After the number election and to the 6th Osun or thereabout election in Osun State, we can talk about his character, his attitude. But I want him to do one thing, just to start, permit you to start, continue where George stopped. I want you to study the last, INEC chairman, Mahmoud, and take a little study about Jega, and know what makes Jega stand out. I know what makes Mahmoud going out now with some stain or stand on his character. We must allow things to work well. We must allow procedures to be a procedure, if there's a good English like that. And we make a guideline, must follow it. That makes a gentleman. You are flowing from black and white television to color television. You have made the same. People say, why have you not fear? I'm flowing from black and white on NTA. I've gone through now and become like an old wine which gets better every day. We must tell this man, if you want to keep your head cool, you must be, disciplined. There's some people who are master leaders of election in INEC. We must understand the only first. I'm a pastor. You can be a good pastor up there, and your next one that makes things around. To be a good head in anywhere, you must have to checkmate yourself, because your staff can date your CV. Why you do not know? This man was disciplined, but let him study what makes people fail and what makes others succeed. I can't talk more than that now. He's a gentleman. His CV is fine. He's made in Nigeria, studying just, first degree, second degree, third. He's a made in Nigerian man. We must understand the tensions and emotions of Nigeria about election. And he's a lawyer. So nobody will tell us to go to court. We must go to court first, because he's an advocate. So he must know what to do and how to do. Congratulations to him. I pray that God give him wisdom, understanding to lead the nation right. But again, congratulations to Mr. President, who has changed circumstances of governance. If it's before, the people that were appointed man will be asleep. The head of state will be asleep. By 2-3 weeks or a month,
yes,
we will not see an INEC chairman. But this man called Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has shown he has a character. He went front, and he said there's no controversy, because he went to kill the man. Right or wrongly, the man has done well. Congratulations, Nigeria. Congratulations, Mr. President.
Well, thank you very much for calling in, Reverend. As he's saying, he didn't let any dust settle on it. In fact, that one was something of a societal coup. Right. While people were waiting, or had assumed that there might be a few days in, I mean, everybody was maybe taken aback, and as you said, you were pleasantly surprised.
Correct.
When you heard the announcement yourself, and the next thing is to begin to, bring a magnifying glass to what has
Correct.
been said.
But his points are well made, because now it's clear the kind of work that does lie ahead of our new nominee, Professor Joe. Now, there's a general perception that INEC has institutional interests that are embedded in it. I don't want to get into name callings. I believe, and that will be the expectation, in my view, of most Nigerians, must go in there and work his way through and break up whatever might be vested interests that make it difficult for the work of INEC to be appreciated. That's important. I think, just as importantly, to show the courage and resilience to withstand political pressure from politicians.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Iyori Folani. So there we have it. Professor Amupitan is the 6th substantive chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, approved by the Senate yesterday, following quite an interesting and, if you want, revealing session. A number of questions were asked, a number of things were laid to the rest. For instance, whether Professor Amupitan was on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's defense team, to which he said he had nothing whatsoever to do with it. That shut them up for a bit. But before we begin, we have a package. Let's play that package.
It was a defining moment inside the Senate chamber as lawmakers took turns to question Professor Joash Ojo Amupitan, the nominee for chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. The screening session began with the nominee reading out his academic and professional profile, one that reflected decades of experience in law, academia, and public service. While senators commended his impressive portfolio, they did not spare him the tough questions ranging from election logistics, technology, security, and inclusivity.
To answer directly and positively whether you were in fact a part of the president's legal team as alleged or speculated about.
With your wealth of experience, can you share with us what accountability mechanisms that you will expand or introduce into our electoral process?
Independent National Electoral Commissions, as a result of the ugly scenario in courts of the government in power at the state sweeping everything.
He further noted that reviewing aspects of the Electoral Act, particularly on electronic transmission of results, will enhance credibility and public confidence in the system.
INEC will perform that role under Section 2 of the Act, which is a major responsibility to ensure that people are educated. You build capacity not just of your staff, of all the election stakeholders, including the political parties, the members of political parties, the masses, as well as technocrats and elites.
The nomination of Professor George Amupitan, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, for appointment as Chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission, is hereby approved.
The confirmation of Professor Joash Amupitan marks not just a change of leadership at INEC, but a fresh test of credibility for Nigeria's electoral process. His pledge to reform election logistics, deepen civic education, and expand inclusion for women and persons with disabilities sets the tone for what could become a defining era for the Commission. But as lawmakers step down the Electoral Act Amendment Bill for further consultations, it's clear the journey towards a more transparent election system is still very much a work in progress. TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, well, thanks there to Tijesu. A work in progress. Okay, let me introduce our guest, and Dr. Okwe Banwo, political affairs analyst and US-based legal practitioner. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Okwe Banwo.
Thank you so much for having me this morning. I appreciate you.
Indeed. We do too, because when you come on, I think I've made the point before, you have to wake up at all sorts of interesting hours. Let me not use the one that people sometimes say, it's a holy hour. You have to wake up at this kind of hours. We are, just past 11 a.m. here. So thanks once again. But on to the main substance. Professor Joash Amupitan, SAN, is chairman of INEC, the sixth substantive. No surprises there, right, Okwe?
Well, what do you mean no surprises? The surprise here I see actually, Amupitan, regardless of what anybody may have to say about the gentleman, is probably the most qualified INEC chairman we've had in a very long time. Is a senior advocate of Nigeria, is a dean of the Faculty of Law. I mean, you can't come more educated than that. So I think it portends something different for Nigeria. We can talk about the good or the bad of it, but I think I'm excited that one, that we finally have somebody. I know that this is a part that a lot of people will not want me to, they will be surprised I'm talking about. We finally have one that's a Yoruba man. I know that we're not talking Yoruba irredentism here, but we've never had one there. So, and then we've never had a son. We've never had somebody who's a dean of the faculty. So me, on my own personal appraisal, I think it's a good thing. The man has not been known for any scandal. I've never even heard of him before this appointment, which tells me, okay, maybe we might get somebody that can really call it the way it is. Lawyers are known to be bold. Lawyers are known to be able to say their mind, because this treading that thin line between executive interference and independence of the INEC has always been a challenge ever since it got started. But when you have a senior advocate of Nigeria, it's also a dean. The dean part actually impresses me more than the SAN part. Because dean of faculties, they generally very erudite people. They are very opinionated people. They do their own thing. So I think Nigerians should be hopeful for that we got this gentleman.
Thank you very much, Okwe. You see, when I said no surprises, it's primarily because of some of the things that you said. He comes very highly qualified. But then also, something else you said also interested me. You're a lawyer. You know the lie of the ground. You know the legal landscape by and large in Nigeria. And there you are, like a lot of people saying that, I never even heard of him before. But clearly, President Tinubu had. One begins to wonder the depth of President Tinubu's vault when it comes to bringing people up. I mean, that one caught a lot of people, by surprise. And as soon as he had been mentioned and had been presented by the governor, which was another surprise move by the president at an executive council meeting, I understand he had asked the governor of Kwara to just go ahead and present this gentleman. That was the first that most people got to know about him. So is that a good thing? The fact that in spite of being a senior advocate of Nigeria, he's not been very much in the press for most people to know him.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. That means he probably comes with less baggage if he has not been active politically or in the national discourse. So maybe that gives us a better hope that he'll be more balanced, he'll be more objective in this. If it is somebody that is already in the public space, even this one that nobody knows, some people are already complaining. Imagine if it was somebody that is already in the political space, because
yes,
the Nigeria that we have today, almost every one of us have one opinion or the other about what is happening. Okay, so if you have been known to be vocal on some issues, immediately you come in, those who are not for your side of the divide, they're going to attack you straight out. He is not known for any opinion yet. And I like that. So now, how we and history judge him will depend on how he now carries himself. Because we are watching, his mandate has been clear. Even the Senate president mentioned some of the stuff that we're going to need him to do when it comes in. So we're going to then have like an open slate to be able to judge whether this man deserves that position or whether it's just another crony appointment. I'm very optimistic, that I've never heard of him. I like that part. He's from the University of Jos, so it's not like somebody who will have been very close to the president from the for him to have been a son. You have to understand this, why I'm excited. For him to have been a son, a Yoruba man, and he has not been connected with the Tinubu machinery before. He has to be strange, because remember, during the election, almost all the sons in Nigeria, they lined up behind the president. Is that connected? He has that much goodwill. But for Amupitan not to have been involved in any of that means that they are not really close as people. And I'm not surprised, because President Tinubu has been known to appoint people who are competent when they put the documents in front. I'm not saying he doesn't favor his own guys. Every president does that. I'm not here to come and tell you he doesn't do stuff like that. Everybody does that. But he's also been known to put people in positions that just happen to be qualified, that he himself doesn't know very well. Even the pardons, if we are to go into that a little bit, you can see that some of the people there, he really doesn't know much about. People put it in front of him who have been appointed to do the work, and the man just signs off if it looks good. So I'm optimistic that Amupitan, because if he is close to the president, like some people are trying to allege, he will have been in one of his defense committees. Baba has too much goodwill. People are fighting to be on his defense committee even without being paid. I happen to know some of this stuff because I'm a lawyer myself. I have a lot of top-level friends. It's not even about the money. They just want to be part of his defense team or offense team or whatever. And here is this guy that's just and he's a son, Dean, and he's just there, and we've not connected him. So I really like that, even though, of course, time will tell.
Yes.
His
Yes.
actions will tell us whether he's the INEC Messiah we are looking for, or we look for another.
Well, I think it was Baba Obasanjo who famously said that there's no Messiah anywhere, in a totally different context, as you recall. The other thing, before we now go into the substance of his duties that he was taken up upon, the fact that President Tinubu doesn't seem to let a lot of grass grow under his feet. When the former president, when the former chairman of INEC stepped aside, among the things he said was that to give the authorities the time, and space, as it were, to find a suitable replacement. In the meantime, I think the most senior INEC commissioner was nominated and agreed within INEC to act pending that time. Before we knew it, President Tinubu had come up with his own suggestion. That particular, what does that say to you politically? He didn't allow even weeks to pass. He struck very much while the iron was still hot.
If I have any little reservation about this appointment initially, my thought was, why are they not promoting people from inside INEC? That is supposed to be the normal thing because of experience and because that's why you write in hierarchy. You have experience over the years. I was expecting that Mr. President will actually hire or appoint somebody from inside of the INEC top hierarchy, maybe even that lady. But he went and brought somebody from outside who had no INEC experience, who has no election running experience, which gave me concern. But as I research, if I was going to write a Mayor of Friday article on it, but as I research, as I always do, I realized that there's nothing unique about this. Almost all maybe with the exception of one, most of the other INEC chairmen have been appointed from outside the system, starting from the Obasanjo time all the way to Buhari, all the way. So there's nothing unusual about that. Even though I would have expected, for bureaucracy purposes, to try to promote the most experienced in-house.
Okay.
Running election in Nigeria is not a pepper soup. It's not something you want to be learning on the job. I have to be very honest about that. So I was going to really attack that why are we not appointing from inside the board? Then, by the time I did my research, I realized I have no case. Almost everybody else was appointed from outside of the system. So apparently the presidents of the nation probably have their reasons why they go and bring in somebody from outside. After all, even though INEC is independent, the appointment itself is a political appointment. So a lot of equations go into it. And I can't legitimately criticize me. I like to criticize with a correct standing and receipts. Everybody else, and I can't criticize him for appointing a Yoruba man. A Yoruba man has never been there, so he has to rotate. So I have no ground. So I just kept quiet. That okay, we will judge Amupitan on his own. Let's see what he's going to do over the next coming week. So I don't see that as a legitimate criticism. Those who wanted the top INEC person or the lady to occupy the post substantially, historically, that has not been the situation. We can't hold the president to that. He's got the power to call from anywhere.
Of course, the president has the right to appoint even a Yoruba man. I understand the implications, the delicacies, and all of that. But they have us understand that the gentleman is from the North Central in Nigeria, whereas there might be aspects of the Yoruba people there. It's hardly a defining Yoruba territory, so to speak. But, I do agree with you that the name, because people will see the name and will reflect on the name first before any other qualifying information.
That's the Nigeria we are in today, unfortunately. Right? but like I also say, Buhari too appointed from the north. So And then even Jonathan, one of his INEC commissioners, was from the south area. It's politics, and again, the president has to appoint someone. So for me, as long as the person is qualified on paper, at least, we have to wait for the man to show his mettle. My preference would have been to appoint an experienced person who has gone through the wars. Okay, but maybe again, sometimes it's not every experience that is good. After the last INEC, people still have a lot of issues about the failing beavers and some of the lack of professionalism in conducting the election. So maybe it's not every experience that is good experience, but a dean who has a dean of faculty of law is not pepper soup anywhere in the world. It's going to be someone that is very logical. It's going to be someone that is very analytical. And it's going to be somebody that is used to having his system obeyed. So that gives me a lot of hope. And the fact that the man is not a political job man, we've never heard of him or seen him in anything political, that's given me hope. And I want to encourage Nigerians. I know opposition have their own job. Their job is to criticize everything and drag the president, and also the president to drag opposition. I get that. But I want the regular Nigerians out there to be optimistic and let all of us start putting this man's toes under the fire, to start encouraging him and start bringing out stuff that he needs to do to make our election process better. As they say, if you're optimistic, more good things come your way. If you are pessimistic, the only thing that you're going to attract from the universe is negativity. So I'm not for all that protest against the man, because it's nothing. Biki Ogala, who's a personal lawyer to the president, has come out and issued a statement that this man was never part of the President Tinubu's lawyers, because he's the one that is coordinating the personal defense of the president. So I believe him. I happen to know him personally. The minute he said that, I'm like, everybody calm down. He's not going to come and lie publicly about stuff like that. Let's allow this man to do his job, and then we judge him based on that. Luckily, we still have over a year. Let's see what he's going to be doing. Anambra is coming up. That will be the litmus test for him. Let's see what he's going to do with the Anambra governorship. Then, at that point, people like me, if we have something to criticize, we have something to shout about, I will shout. But for now, all I can do is wish him well, pray for him, and pray that the man will be able to maintain his head in between all the warring parties, as the APC is dragging him, PDP and ADC will be dragging him. Let God just give him presence of mind to be able to do the right thing and understand that he might have been appointed by the president, but he's not working for the president. He's working for the Nigerian people. That's my own prayer for him, and all my positive thoughts go to him until I have something to say about him. Let him do something first. So we can decide whether it's good or bad.
So it's like so far so good, even though he's just about to begin, now that he has the Senate approval, and some issues were resolved or taken away, as you just said there. Ogala SAN had already spoken, and you said that this is someone you, but he himself, he was confronted in the Senate, and he said he wasn't ever a part of it. I think they also brought in Mr. Peter Obi and his defense team. He says, none of that. I wasn't a part of it. So all of that was very good, because we know that Nigerians, especially on social media, will make up postings. Let me put it like that. They will make up their postings and put in their postings whatever they want. So it's just as well that we are now where we are. So on to the job proper. What do you think, if you were to go about penciling in a sort of an agenda for him? He himself has already spoken about the beavers, and that it needs more work. I think he's spoken about an electoral act that possibly could benefit from a bit of amendment. But where would you, being a very keenly interested person, along with millions of Nigerians, who are very keenly interested when it comes to this matter, especially as it relates to transparency and fairness?
Yes, I have several things that I what I call questions or expectations from the new INEC chairman, and I would like to list a few of them.
Sure.
For instance, the most important thing for me that he needs to pass is the integrity test. Will he be truly independent? Because every INEC chairman always starts with a glowing press conference, press releases, but they end up being defined by how much they are able to resist presidential influence. The presidency is composed of human beings. They will try to exert influence, is what it is. If I'm there, I know I'm going to try to exert influence also, is what it is. But he has to be able to show us through some of his actions that he is beyond being pressured at that level, because he's going to be acting as a referee, and we want him to act as a referee that is neutral, rather than a referee that is wearing the team colors of one of the parties, which happen to be the ruling party. And we're going to see that from his appointments of resident electoral commissioners, how he does his contracts and the public comments he makes. So he should watch out for that. Number two thing that I expect of him is in the technology frontier, because I'm a tech person myself. Is he going to upgrade, or is he going to retreat us back to everybody line up under the sun and do this thing one by one type of thing? Because after the Beavers and the IRF controversies that many have still not gotten over since 2023, Nigerians are very skeptical of INEC's tech integrity. So Amupitan's background as an academic lawyer is not a tech administrator. Means he must quickly modernize the technology backbone, or is going to risk repeating history. So we have to watch. Number one, I want to see, is he going to audit the Beavers machine and the IRF server architecture with consummate professionals? Is he going to initiate partnerships with local tech firms for transparency? Let them not bring all this Amazon thing. Let him, is he going to partner with local tech firms for transparency? Is he going to publish open data on electoral logistics? We expect all of that of him on the technology. Number three, another thing that a lot of us complain about, those of us who are commentators and who are watchers, is what I call the electoral calendar discipline. It's a chronic Nigerian problem. INEC often violates its own timetable. So if Amupitan insists that data means something again, it will matter, that dates mean something again. It's going to mark a cultural shift. When you announce it, you stick with it. So we're going to keep an eye on whether Anambra 25 election, the governorship one, and the other off-season elections coming up, whether it's going to stick to schedule without extensions, litigation confusion, or logistic regrets. That will begin to give us and everybody, because the tone is set. So number 14 that I expect of him, to be honest, okay, internal purge and institutional reforms. Because the truth is, Yakubu's tenure left INEC bloated with career politicians who are disguised as civil servants. So the question is, will the new chairman do real reform and not just be talking and doing all sorts of speeches? Okay, so he should expect resistance from entrenched staff. That's how they make money.
Okay.
But if Amupitan wants to be historical, he should do personnel audit and training, procurement and logistic transparency, so that all of us can see. And then, of course, public disciplinary proceedings for those who have been guilty of misconduct. He needs to do that. So he has a lot of work ahead of him, and all we can do is, and of course, sorry, before I know I took a time on that, voter register cleanup. Okay, because the truth is, the 2023 register still contains ghosts, duplicates, underage voters, and dead names. So him doing an early digital audit and collaboration with the NIMC, the National Identity Management Commission, could establish its credibility, because credibility is all for him.
Yeah.
Because this simple act restore our confidence faster than any press statement that they can give us. That's just a few of the expectations.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that. We're going to have to leave it there, Dr. Okpebanwo. Thank you very much. Do please join us on Monday for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.